the block and then the amount you want to smooth it.
Indeed.
Yeah.
You have to use the block ID, or you can just spell it out.
Yeah, I know. Don't worry, I already did that. I already did that for this video.
Alrighty. The end is never the end. I'm streaming now, by the way.
Ooh.
Are you streaming it?
Yeah,
Ah,
I
so
posted the
nice.
link in TeamSpeak.
Okay, good.
Alright, so that's what this does.
Well, I'm playing CSGO because I'm trying to get money.
Okay.
This
This
kid's
is
on
the
the
story of a
scrub.
man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Right, look.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow.
This is
No
already
one showed
different
up to
from
give
when
him
I
instructions,
played, I think.
call a meeting,
Maybe not,
or
I don't know.
even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened. This complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Oh, did I now? Well then. I can't see the camera that was watching me.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
I like the way they just made this absolute white so you can't see out the windows.
Just get out.
Let's go!
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Go on then.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave
How come
of
there's like a
disbelief,
huge delay
Stanley
between your
decided to
voice
go
and the
up
thing?
to his boss's office,
My voice in
hoping
the
he
game?
might find an answer there.
Yeah.
Is there?
Yeah. Like, it just, when I said,
Test? Should be fine.
I'll tell you when it says test.
That is a delay. Test. That should be fine. Tell you what, let's see if they're synced up. So I'm going to look at this and say something, okay? Test. Test. Right,
It just
and
said
then-
test.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track. There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here.
No, you're not feeling
You're gonna look
poorly.
at that and say something?
It was baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing it. Coming to a staircase,
Yeah,
Stanley walked upstairs to
Bye-bye.
his boss's
Stanley
office.
stepped into the broom closet.
Let me.
That's how delayed
listen.
it is.
Yeah, let me listen to the stream. No, you're not feeling.
You're gonna look
poorly.
at that and say something?
It was
Well, you can't
wonderful
really
that
listen to it
Stanley
because I have
was still
headphones on.
just sitting in the broom closet.
Yeah.
Oh, that is a. Should be fine. Ooh. Test. No, it's not delayed. Alright.
In the broom closet. He wasn't even doing it. Coming to a staircase,
Yeah,
Stanley walked upstairs to...
Okay, right. Sorry about that, viewers.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream.
There's an achievement called You Can't Jump.
Yeah, I just tried
Finally
spamming
found
space.
An answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the fact was that, of course, this was not.
I just saw the Elite Dangerous thing.
Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up.
He knew for certain,
he
without
thought to himself.
doubt.
I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Well then.
Stanley began screaming. "Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I?" And everything went black.
Oh, okay then.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and
Where the
in a
fuck did
certain
Stanley
way,
go?
seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Well, I guess that was one ending.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Right, I'm gonna do the opposite of what he says and then do what he says. 'Cause last time I did what he says and did the opposite of what he
When
says.
Stanley came to a set of two open
So you did
doors,
both?
he entered the door on his left.
Right, so I need to go right.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few
He
moments
says.
here in this immaculate, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Okay.
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Right, I need to get
Coming
up.
to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Ooh, loading.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Okay.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed.
Which one are you gonna
Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Whoever the narrator is, I love his voice.
Here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Press the big red button. Or not.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
On or off?
On.
Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each
What
one of
do we
them
need to
is.
do?
More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going.
Damn it, it's
What all
buffering.
this means. I
Oh, is it?
barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let
What
the
the
office
fuck
sink
did
into
I
the
do,
ground,
Connor?
swallowing everyone
failed.
inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything
I'm
and take
sorry,
back the
Connor.
control
You
wrested
should
away
be.
from you, it's quite rich. I almost
find
hate to
3.
see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock, why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stan. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room
Click the
was
fail
capable
safe.
of turning it off? I mean,
I have.
look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button. Or this door. Everything, anything, something here will
Fucking
save
narrator.
me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't.
Oh my god.
Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a
I'm
big
scared.
boom.
What the fuck did you do, Wraith?
Just you being
I don't know.
You killed me!
to your frail life.
I'm
Or will you let it
sorry.
go?
It's shaking.
Another choice. Make it count. Or don't. It's all the same to me. All a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever up.
You killed me, you arsehole.
You're dead?
I'm dead.
Try again, do the same thing, but don't press the on button.
I want to do something different.
I'm gonna find out what happens if you press the off button.
I'll try and find my way there again now.
All of his co-workers were gone.
Because now it's
What did
different.
it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
All the things have changed, Wraith.
Everything?
Everything's changed.
Stanley
We
went
went
around touching.
somewhere.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Oh shit, it just went black.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked
Right, I'll
upstairs
press
to
on.
his boss's office.
No, you're in the same place, Connor.
Well, kind of, but the intro looks
Stepping
different
into
than
his
the inside.
manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety
Sorry,
isn't
Mr.
healthy,
Narrator.
so he relaxed for a few moments
You
with
went
some
through the
calming
right
new age
door.
music.
Oh great, now the narrator's making me relax because I rushed through the story.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
2 right. Okay, so do the mind control thing, just do on. No, off. Turn it off.
Yes.
Is it buffering a lot for you, or is it
ahead through the
fine?
large door
It's
that
not
read
buffering,
Mind Control Facility.
It's good. Because I cranked it up to like 4 or 5 megabytes a second, so.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
2. It's probably you and Bro Hansen.
This mind
but it will turn into a
control
video, so I don't mind
it
how
was
many
too
people watch now.
horrible to believe it couldn't be true. Had Stanley
It's actually
been under
easier
someone's control
streaming it
all this
and just
time? Was
getting
this
it
the
to
only
upload
reason he
itself
was happy with his boring job,
than it is to
that
record
his
it and upload
emotions
it.
had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He
Narrator means I can't
accept
talk
it.
much either.
His own life in someone else's
shut up,
control?
narrator.
Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof.
How is
The
Stanley
heart of
doing?
the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and
What do you think will
commanded
happen
from
if I
this
turn it off,
very
Rafe?
place. And as the cold
Do you
reality
think
of his
everything will go
past
smooth?
began to sink in,
I don't know,
Stanley
I'm not
decided
there
that
yet.
this machine...
I turned it off.
Turned what off?
I don't know what'll happen if you turn it off.
Oh, right.
You're telling the narrator to shut up in the
Blackness.
video.
and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over?
Yes, he has.
Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he
What
been
did you do?
freed from the machine's
Turned it off.
grasp? What other mysteries did
I
this
can see
strange
daylight.
building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all
Wow,
he needed
it's actually a
to know.
really nice place outside.
It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing.
You outside?
Stanley stepped through the open door.
Didn't know you could go
Guessing it
outside.
will end as soon as I get out though. Yeah.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was
How did
exactly
nobody
the
notice the
way,
giant wall
right
that was there
now,
the whole time?
that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Looks like I got a good end, didn't I?
Looks like the Aztec map from CSGO and over there. Like some of the foliage.
I beat the game, got the achievement.
Woo! I beat it again.
Or should I leave that to part 2?
You actually beat the game?
Well, I got the achievement. Now, should I carry on? Because I don't want the video to be like 2 hours long.
We've been streaming for about half an hour.
Yes. Should I end it here and do a part 2 another day?
Yep, do a part 2.
Okay. Thank you very much for watching, guys. See you later, I guess. See you later.